It means that Warship World has received what I think is the recognition it deserves for what it has done over the last 36 years. And from my point of view, it's a great honour because one puts a lot of time and effort into writing articles. You don't, generally speaking, don't get a huge amount of feedback, and so it's great. It really is, and it's a wonderful surprise. And I'm very pleased. Following Desmond's death in December 1991, Mike was really looking around for something to fill the magazine, and he was, as I said, you know, when I spoke a little earlier, he was somewhat reluctant because the idea of a political column, it does sound rather dull, and I think he was probably right in his initial reaction that this might not be terribly appealing to his readers, but. And we started off with just 1 page, and then I crept up to 2 pages. And when I'm very, very lucky, I get 3 pages. But generally speaking, it's 2, and that's more than enough to fill. Because it's a bi-monthly magazine, so it isn't quite the commitment. If you're writing for a magazine every month, that is a substantial commitment. So, but it catches up on you, and you suddenly look in the diary, and you suddenly find, I have got to read 3 parliamentary reports by the end of next week and review them for the magazine. And then you dig them out and you find that, like that first one on the RNR, it runs to 100 pages and you've got to wade your way through it. But, you know, after a while you get used to what you're looking for. I'm looking for nuggets, basically. I'm not really looking for conclusions because, generally speaking, the MOD doesn't take too much notice. But it's what they discover when they interview witnesses that you get some pretty fascinating revelations, particularly when the witnesses make comments that perhaps on reflection they shouldn't have made. They're put on the spot and out comes something that I think the civil servants are squirming in the background, that this particular Rear Admiral made a disclosure that under no circumstances should he have mentioned, but there again, it's there in print, and it's for us to review. I think if you look at the Defence Committee, the Defence Committee really is the most important of all the committees that write on these matters. And Julian Lewis, who's the chairman, he is probably the best chairman the Defence Committee has had. And he's one of those characters that he will never give up. And he's utterly determined to get to the bottom of matters. And he writes the most fantastic reports, and I have huge admiration for Julian and his team. I mean, he's got people working at the Palace of Westminster whose names are never disclosed, and they're doing the donkey work. And they're questioning the witnesses, they're probing, they're asking for, well, let's have this in writing and so on. And it's a great shame that it is not given much more publicity by the media. Every now and again, the broadsheets will find a Defence Committee report they think is of some interest and they'll cover it. But regrettably, most of those reports are published and ignored until we come along and we cover them. And I'm delighted that we do, because no one else does. Yes, I should think it probably takes about 10 hours for 1 2-page report. So that's the commitment, and that's every 2 months. And I've got it to a relatively fine art. I get these reports, I know what I'm looking for, so I don't have to read them word for word. And there are some things I don't bother to do anymore. I mean, for instance, in the old days I used to read the debates in Parliament. And in those days you actually had MPs who had a military background and they knew what they were talking about. The trouble is today, virtually none of our MPs have served in the armed forces. And when there are debates, the knowledge is lamentable. And quite frankly, those debates are just not worth reporting. It's a very sad state of affairs.